Good morning, everybody. We are thrilled that you have joined us on session 9 of our Journey to Executive Coordinator. Today is a special day. We are going to be thinking and learning all about leadership, and specifically some of this John Maxwell material that our special guest is going to be sharing with us. And I'm thrilled to just be able to have Ruth with us this morning. She's a key coordinator and a Maxwell trainer, and we are thrilled to be able to have this today.
And I am thrilled to be here.
Yeah, well, Ruth and I are sisters in Shaklee, and an interesting story about that. The couple that sponsored us in Shaklee are somewhat retired. John Stone, who's now in his 80s, and because of Ruth's leg and our leg. He has one other, I believe. He makes now in his retirement, and he's in his mid-80s. I think it's $7,000 a month. Or it might be a little more than that, but it's somewhere in that range. So nice to know that. That we're delighted to be able to provide some retirement income for him. So there's our training team. We're so grateful for everything that they've contributed in this Journey to Executive Coordinator, and that takes us to our session today, which is going to be about leadership. And Joe, you want to set this up?
Sure. We wanted to, let's say this, the reason that we're putting some focus here on leadership is because of the way the Shaklee Dream Plan works. And it rewards us in two ways. We can, obviously, for developing a base of lifelong customers. And that can be a very nice, stable, solid income, but it will probably never fluctuate too much, and it won't grow tremendously. But again, it still can be a strong, stable income. But the real rewards in the Shaklee Dream Plan are for developing business teams. And Barb just gave you a perfect example of that with her sponsor and Ruth's sponsor. By he and his wife at one point having developed business teams, those teams are generating residual incomes, and that's when the income in Shaklee can really be explosive, or can be big, like $7,000 a month in retirement. Mm-hmm. And so to develop these business teams requires leadership skills. And here's the good news, guys. We can all learn how to be good leaders. That's right. You may feel you've never had an opportunity yet to develop that leadership side of yourself, but you can do that in Shaklee, and we can all become better leaders and benefit from the rewards of the Dream Plan.
You know what else is interesting, Joe, just hit me when you said that, is that because of technology today, even us all coming together here on Thursday mornings, is we all have an opportunity to observe different leadership styles, and they're all fine. They all work, but it helps each of us find our voice, find our style, find our role. Because as I was just thinking back as you were saying that, it took me, I had to figure that out. I didn't know how to be a leader exactly. I didn't know what this was going to look like. And that's been really wonderful. I mean, just thinking about those of you who just joined us in pre-call with Michelle Parrott, and for us to see how she has taken a leadership role with both her business partners and her customers, and using Facebook as a major vehicle for that. So it's a real benefit we have in our business of the way we share, and this wide variety of leadership styles that we all get to observe and connect with the ones that work best for us and our life situation. So that brings us
the value. Quickly, I was just going to say the value of that, Barb, then is that we don't have to be like another leader that we see being successful in Shaklee. We just have to take the time to develop our own leadership style.
That's right. Very good. And so we thank heavens for Ruth Kutz, because I was looking over material for leadership to share with you this morning, and I came across a quote from John Maxwell, and all of a sudden I remembered John Maxwell. Ruth just has been involved in becoming a trainer for John Maxwell. And so I called, bless her, and on Tuesday I called her and said, would you do the session on Thursday? And she said, sure. And I'll get it to you by 10 o'clock Wednesday night. And she's got weddings this weekend, and oh my gosh, all kinds of things going on. So we thank her in a million ways, because John Maxwell is considered really one of the key speakers and teachers in this arena of leadership. Ruth, how many books has he written on this?
Well over 100. I keep hearing 104 to 110. I think he's lost track.
Oh man. Well,
interesting. They're written in, or they've been published in over 47 different languages. And so it's just amazing the number of people from different parts of the world that were at the certification training.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I've got 80 of them. So I'm really looking forward to today. So get us started, and thanks for joining us.
All right, terrific. Well, thank you for asking me, Barb. Although those of you that have been in this position know when Barb calls, it's really hard to say no matter how crazy life is. And since she does so much for the field, it's like I said, I can pull this together. So I've just been saying a prayer that I'm going to add some value, as John Maxwell says, to your morning and to your leadership journey. But real quickly, before I get into John, because some of you have known who I am, and some of you are like, yeah, I've heard the name, but don't know who she is. And I just want to share a little bit about my Shaklee story, because it was back in the early 70s that my parents were introduced to Shaklee. So I am a second-generation Shaklee kid. And I grew up taking the products, or in our family, we didn't have any animals to slip the chewable vitamins to, as some of your kids and grandkids may have done. So I used to put mine in Mom's plants, and she would wonder why they were growing so tremendously until I finally told her my little secret. She didn't think it was too funny, but I thought it was. And but for my 18th birthday, I received a Shaklee distributorship. And for those of you with kids, your 18-year-old is probably looking for a car, not a Shaklee distributorship. But it took me about 2 years to realize, since Mom and Dad have been driving Shaklee bonus cars for a number of years, that I too could be driving a new car. So by the time I was 22, I had built a Shaklee business. And actually, back in those days, Barb, I don't know if you even remember, I think we used to do the training in Vivian's basement.
Yeah.
And you were already leading trainings for us way back then.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. That goes back quite a few years.
40.
And so, yeah. Oh, no. It can't be that many. But so by the time I was 22, I was driving my first Shaklee bonus car, and then life happens. And that's one of the beautiful things about this business, and what happens to us and what we learn is that even as life is happening, we can still continue to do our Shaklee business, put it on hold or whatever. Because in my instance, I got married. And it was a poor choice for a number of reasons. And when I got unmarried, I don't know if you've noticed, but these Shaklee people tend to be really happy and perky and just full of energy. And I don't know if anybody else on the call has ever been kind of in a down place where you almost feel like you need to wallow just for a little while. And to be around these Shaklee people can be a little intimidating, maybe, or overwhelming. Yes. So I decided to take a step back and join the corporate world. Never ever stopped using Shaklee products because they've been a part of my heart and soul since I was 12, and did go out into the corporate world. And after 5 years of giving them my heart and soul at more than 110%, they said, thanks very much, but we've hired a new vice president and you're going to need to find a new job. Well, if anybody has ever been fired, and I know in today's world almost everybody has, it's not the best feeling in the world. And that's when I made the decision that I wasn't going to let anybody else control my destiny, that it was going to be up to me. And I decided at that point to partner with my mom and dad in the business. And we actually more than doubled our business that first year, because they were making about as much money as I was in the corporate world. And if we were going to do this, something needed to happen. One of the things I love about Shaklee is what you need, it can happen by you putting the effort in. And so it's effort, a focused effort, and some leadership skills that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. And it's just been a wonderful, wonderful journey. I've been able to travel the world with Shaklee, been to places I never dreamt I could ever get to, places like Hong Kong and all over Europe, and just a variety of things. But the other thing about this business, like I said, when life happens, it can still continue to carry you on. About 10 years ago, my dad passed away suddenly, and then it seemed like there was this journey of all of my relatives who didn't have children, had all sorts of health concerns. And so for the last 10 years, I've literally kind of taken a step back and did what I had to maintain our business, but was able to be 100% fully present as I walked through the final journey of three of my relatives actually so far. And the checks continue to come. If I had had a real job, I would be fired by now. So it's the beauty of this business, of what it can provide, but the personal development that happens as a result of this business is just outstanding. And John Maxwell is kind of where I've landed. I've been to Tony Robbins seminars, I've been to Jim Rohn, I've met them, I've read their books, I've listened to their tapes, their CDs, and podcasts now. And it's just, John has always been someone who I really, really loved the way he wrote, because it was simple, it was to the point, and it made sense. And he offered this certification training about 5 years ago, and timing-wise, I couldn't do it, but finally this year I was able to do it, and I feel so blessed that I was. Got to meet this man, and I'll tell you, when you hear him on CD or even see him on video, it's not the same as even hearing him in person. And I just want to share real quickly, details will be at the end of my portion of this, but he's going to actually be speaking at Willow Creek Summit, their leadership summit, which happens in August, the weekend after conference. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later, but that gives everybody an opportunity it'll be via satellite, all the locations you can still get into, but it'll be just as good as seeing him live, because I just love him. But this is the key that he always says: everything rises and falls on leadership. And we learned that in our Shaklee journey. And we can go to the next slide, which is going to be the first law that I'm going to talk about. John has written, as we said, over 100 books. And the very first book of his that I read was 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And I just want to talk briefly about that first law, which is the law of the lid. And when we think of a lid, I think of like a baseball lid or a cap on your head, okay? Or the lid, what they call it, the glass ceiling for many of us in the corporate world, because you can only go that high. But basically, how well you lead is going to determine how successful you are. Now, some of you are going, oh, I've got great leadership skills. You know, I was president of president of my senior class, or maybe you were on the basketball team or the softball team. And you're like, I got some leadership skills. And then some others of you are going, well, gee, you know, not so sure I've got any leadership skills because I never wanted to do that. But I guarantee you this, if you are the mother of a family, or if you've ever had a job, or anybody to follow you in any way, teaching Sunday school, whatever it might be, you are a leader. You have leadership skills. It's just a matter of learning a few more to make it even better. So what I want you to visualize here is a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being at the bottom and 10 being at the top. And this would be your leadership skills. So if you feel like I really don't have any leadership skills at all, then you'd be down there at the bottom. If you feel like, hey, I've got the most awesome leadership skills, I'm already a presidential master coordinator, and I've got organizations in every country Shaklee's in, okay, get it? None of us are going to be a 10, at least not right now, and it's going to take some time to get there. But let's just say on average, you're about a 5. And so your leadership skills are there at that 5, and I kind of want you to put your hand out as, just straight across, going, okay, that's where my skills are. Then I want you to take your other hand and put it underneath that hand, because the hand that you're holding up that's at your 5, that's your lid. And your business can never go any higher than the lid, which is your leadership skills. So that means you're only going to get to be a 4. And in the Shaklee world, maybe that's a director, okay, just as kind of an example. So in order for you to get to senior director or coordinator, or better yet, master, senior master, presidential master, we need to increase your leadership skills. And the beautiful thing is you can do that by reading books, by attending seminars, and doing all of the things you're already doing, because we have such great leadership already in Shaklee that we're following. Everybody on this that has put this together. I mean, Joe and Barb, it's been 6 years of you guys doing this practically weekly. I mean, oh, my heart goes out to both of you guys, and thanking you from the bottom of my heart. And then all these new leaders that are coming along, Harper and Katie and Ashley and Becky and Lisa. I mean, we have such great leadership out here in the field for us to follow and to learn from. And on top of that, we've got corporate leadership that's unsurpassed with Heather now on board and Roger. I mean, we're just so blessed to be in the position that we're in and have so many places that we can learn from. So you just have to tap into that. And as you learn that, your leadership lid will go up. As your leadership lid goes up, your business will also follow suit. Does that make sense?
Yes, it sure does.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, Barb.
I was going to say, so I've seen that about the law of the lid. And so the lid really represents our leadership skills level.
Correct.
And what's beautiful about what you're saying is that you're not born a leader, that we can learn things every day. We can learn them, and to me, that's a very hopeful and optimistic view of where we want to go in our life and in our business.
I agree. And I think the thing about this, too, that helped me is so many times, for those of us that have been around it for a while and those of you that are really just starting to get active, you recruit somebody in and they sponsored in and they're going to, they want to build a business and they've got all these, they're saying all the right things, and then they disappear or they don't do what they say they're going to do. And then I would beat myself up sometimes, thinking, oh, it must have been something that I did, and I'm the reason that person quit or reverted or whatever it might be. And to realize that it's not about me or what I did or didn't do for them. It's about them and their skills or willingness to learn the new skills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good. So it's in our hands.
It's absolutely in your hands, and actually, more importantly, in your head first. Because you have to believe. I just keep thinking, I was listening to some of the 8 weeks to director training this last week because our group is doing that. We've got a team of people that are building to director right now following that program, and we're meeting weekly. And just Katie talking about the mindset, and it's all about your mindset. That's number one. Mm-hmm. So it's the mindset, it's your willingness to know that, yes, you can learn new things. Now, the second law I want to talk about, and these are just happen to be 2 of the 21 irrefutable laws, because I feel that they're so powerful, is this law of process. And we talk about process on this training all the time. And I think this is another important thing to know. You don't become a leader overnight. You don't become a leader the first time you read a book or you attend a seminar. Leadership takes time. It develops daily. I love the example that John uses when he talks about this, because he says we live in a microwave society where people want to, you put it in the microwave and it's ready in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if you want to become a good, strong leader with a bunch of people following you, because here's the other key, guys, if you think you're a leader and you turn around and nobody's behind you, you're not leading anybody. So why is that? Why aren't people following you? And it boils down to we have to become better we's or us's or me's in order to have that happen. But instead of being a microwave leader, think about becoming a crock pot leader, where you're marinating, it's taking time, you're developing all those flavors, all those skills, and that's when you become a super strong leader. So one thing to know about this, because I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm sure some of you out there might be thinking this, is that, we have lousy self-talk. And some of you are going, what are you talking about, Ruth? I'm not talking to myself. Well, hello, did you just talk to yourself? Okay. What are we saying to ourselves? We're beating ourselves up. We're actually our own worst critic. And actually, Barb, if we want to go to the next slide, because I think this leads right into this, is that the toughest person to lead is ourselves because of what we're saying to ourselves. And we're worse judges of ourselves than we are of other people. I don't know if you guys notice that. And some of the things that we hear ourselves saying in our head are things that we probably wouldn't say to our best friend. But when we're disappointed in whatever our outcome is, or even what our intention was to get done, we're beating ourselves up. So the key is, number one, stop beating yourself up. Start to talk to yourself with love. And you have to love yourself to be a better leader. That's number one. Number two is you need to learn followership. Now that's that's a John word. John likes to make up words, but as John says, he is one of the ones that he coined the word accountability, because accountability wasn't in the dictionary a few years ago. And we're going to talk about accountability here in a couple more pages. But followership means that the only way you can become a leader is if you have already followed somebody and followed them well. And repeating what I said earlier, in Shaklee, we've got the greatest leaders to follow. And it's important that you do that. But the other thing is you've got to ask yourself some questions. And that's a lead into one of the other upcoming slides. But you've got to be a good follower before you can become a good leader. And the reason for that is it makes it much easier to connect with the people that are following you. Just like we talk about in Shaklee, if you bring somebody in with a gold pack or, the $6.99 kit, you're more likely to bring people in at that same way. And it's the same thing here. You want to know what the people that you're bringing in are already experiencing. And the thing to know about following people is sometimes you're going to be leading others who are following you too. You can be leading and following at the same time. And sometimes you are the only leader and there are people following you, and other times you're following somebody else. So know that it's one of those roles that changes on a daily basis. The other thing to know about leading yourself, two things. Well, actually, there's a total of four, but I want to talk mostly about the followership. Seeking accountability is really important, but you guys are all parts of accountability circles, and if you're not, talk to your upline about getting involved in one of those. I don't want to be redundant on some of the stuff we've talked about, but another key thing to leading yourself is to have patience. Because how many of us want to be master coordinators tomorrow? And it's not always, it's not possible to be a master coordinator. One of the calls that Michelle's like, she says, or not Michelle, Ashley said on one of the 8 weeks to director, she says, I'm going to, she had such a great day, 8 appointments in one day, and she figures master coordinator in 6 months. No. Okay, we have to develop that patience. And I think what's fascinating to me as I read through the Maxwell stuff is it ties in so beautifully with the philosophy in Shaklee. For instance, the point of leadership is not to cross the finish line first, but it's to take people across the finish line with you. And isn't that what we do in Shaklee? Is to have people walk with us to help them to achieve their dreams and goals too. And this was something else he said. He goes, we need to slow down, stay connected, enlist others to fulfill your vision, and keep your people motivated and going. Is that not what we do as leaders in Shaklee?
Mm-hmm.
For those that have been around for a while. Now, those of you that are new to the call, these are just some things that, you need to, that you will be learning. Okay, so that is the key things I wanted to share on that it's toughest to lead yourself. Now, let's talk about being a connector and not just a climber. And this chapter I wanted to talk a little bit about, which, by the way, the chapters we're talking about now are from one of John's books called Leadership Gold. And it's a book with 26 different nuggets that are basically synopsises of his 100 and some odd books. Mm. And if you've not read John's books, you got to get your hands on at least one of them. And it's hard to pick what my favorite one is. He's got a newer one out called Intentional Living. That is great. But this Leadership Gold is just a wonderful compilation of everything. So I think maybe if you had to pick one and you wanted it all in one book, although it's not all there, this would be a good one. But being a connector and not just a climber. And I think what's important to know about this one, okay. I'm telling you so many things and I'm forgetting so many of the other things because there's just so much here. Okay, but that's all right. Let's breathe. Okay.
There's something you want to add to the leading yourself?
Well, actually, it was back to the process and the but that's okay. We can, actually, let's just jump back to the process page for a second, a couple pages back, Barb. Because I think this is important too, and this was something that I sort of struggled with. And maybe some of you out there have struggled with this, in that it's about the events. And I actually have a flashback, Barb, and I don't even know if you remember this. But back, let's see, it was still in the garage at Priscilla and Dean Smith's house when they lived here in Oak Brook. And we had a monthly coordinator meeting that sometimes there would be 40 or 50 people in their garage. It was a heated garage, by the way, here in Illinois. And it was at a time, Barb, you had a lot of growth and so did we. I think as a matter of fact, it must have been back in the early 90s when I first joined Mom in the Business. Mm-hmm. And the conversation came up, how is the growth happening? Do you have a process or is it just about the events? And you piped up and you said, it's about the process. We've got this process down and this is what we're doing. And I said, no, it's about the events, because I didn't realize I had a process, but I was just doing a whole bunch of events. But looking back now, I realized that the events that we were doing were part of the process, and I just hadn't totally fine-tuned it like you have now within the 8 weeks to director training that you guys have so succinctly put together. I'm just blown away by how awesome the training is that you guys have put together. But you have to understand that events are really important. And when we talk about events, the Facebook events, in-home events, regional conferences, Orlando coming up, whatever it might be. But what's most important is that they can be an effective catalyst, but if you want to have great growth and great improvement, you've got to have that process. And that process encourages development. It helps to mature people, and it's just really, really important. And I just wanted to share that because sometimes some of us get stuck in just doing event, and don't take that next step and take it to the process, just in case there's someone out there that may be stuck in that mode too, just like we were. Oops, sorry.
You get busy doing the doing, staying busy, but you're not moving forward. That's very good.
Exactly. Now, this connector versus climber, and it's not really a versus, because we need to do some of both, okay? The climber is just thinking, okay, I need to get to the next rank, but you're not thinking about the people that you're bringing with you and the relationships that you need to develop. And you're looking for that partnership. Now, it's important that we have a little bit of both in us. It's not that the connector or the climber are bad, or either one are bad. They're both very, very good. But the thing to know is, if you're on the right side of this screen, and you're just thinking, I need to get to, I'm going to get to coordinator, I need to get the next car, I'm going to get on the trip, and it's all about, I'm going to be recognized on stage, and it's all about me, you're missing out on the connection part. Now, the reality is you can connect. If you can climb without connecting, so you're going to get the ranks and stuff that you want, but you're not going to develop the relationships and the friends. And most of us in Shaklee tend to focus more on the relationships and the friends. So, but if you're doing too much connecting and only focusing on relationships and developing the friendships and stuff, and not really trying to do any of the seeking the growth to the next rank, you're going to have a lot of friends, but you're not going to have the growth and the income that Shaklee can provide. But on the other hand, if all you're doing is focusing on the striving and climbing, you're going to miss out on the connections, and you're going to miss out on the friendships and the true power of what Shaklee, because let's face it, Shaklee is just such a blessing and such a gift that we can offer to people. But also the gift that we get in return for what we're doing is just powerful, just powerful.
And you know what strikes me when you say that, Ruth, is that to build to a rank without helping others build along with you, and without helping others along their journey, would be a pretty teetery place to be. Because it's you can't do it by yourself. You can't. You know, that's the nature of our business. What I loved about the basic philosophy behind the whole Shaklee compensation plan is that you are rewarded for helping others to grow. It's a basic philosophy behind any of the compensation. So I love this. I've never seen this before. This is a very I really like the defining of connectors and climbers. It's very helpful. It's very nice.
Yeah, John does some really great things. He really. I just love his stuff. Okay, let's go on to the next page, because I think this one is also powerful too. Because again, in Shaklee, we meet people, we bring them in, and they seem to join our team, and then they quit or they disappear. Or if somebody has some cute saying that they become, incognito, or I can't remember what the phrase is at the moment. But this is people quit people and they don't quit the company. And I think that's just so true. They join because of you and they will stay because of you. And now, granted, there are some people that we would very happily wish that we hadn't met them. Okay, I'm being totally honest here, guys, because I don't know if you've ever ended up with someone in your group that you're going, oh boy, I wish they weren't with our group anymore. And Oscar Wilde has a great quote that he has, and he says, "Some cause happiness wherever they go. Some cause happiness whenever they go." And I just thought that was really kind of appropriate in so many levels. But people quit for a number of reasons. They join you because they like you, because they relate to you. But then if we go to the next screen, they're going to quit. Some people quit. And people will quit for a number of different reasons. One of the reasons that people quit is they maybe feel devalued. Now, as I'm reading through this chapter, I was trying to find chapters that really related to Shaklee versus, say, a corporate world. But I don't think we consciously ever devalue people, but it can happen sometimes by accident, but it happens. So be wary that you value people all the time. People also will quit if they feel that their leader is untrustworthy. And so this is one of those places, too, where we have to walk our talk and really, truly be the person that we think we are. And I say we think we are because sometimes we think we're one person and people observe us as another way. And we're going to get into that in the next page, too, about asking questions. But people will also quit because people are incompetent, which, of course, in Shaklee we never are. And this is a key thing I want to say here. Never be afraid to tell people you don't know the answer and that you will find out the answer for them. And right there, that totally eliminates this. And those of you that are just getting started, don't feel like you need to know everything in order for people to especially when you're getting started. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. I'm just getting started. Let me find out, and I will get back to you. And that shows that you're going to be competent because you're going to learn. But the key to that, too, is, folks, be sure that when you get the answer, that you do get the answer, and then you reach back to them and tell them what the answer is. Okay? So that incompetency piece will totally not be relevant for you. The other interesting thing is people will quit because they feel that their leader is insecure. And this can also be a challenge for some of us, especially as we're getting started. And people want to work with leaders who fire them up and don't put out their fire. Mm-hmm. So I loved that phrase in that because, and I've confession, sometimes I'm guilty of it. Somebody will tell me, oh, I've got this great idea. I want to do this, this, and this. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, well, that's never worked for anybody else. Why is that going to work for you? And of course, I don't say that out loud, but I have those thoughts in my head. And I'm sure I'm not the only one out there that has thoughts like that sometimes. So how do you take that and turn it around to encourage them to try it, but so that if they don't get too discouraged? And I'm not sure I 100% know the answer to that at the moment.
You know what strikes me, Joe? I was thinking about the book we read for the Chairman's Retreat by Simon Sinek, called
Leaders Eat Last.
Eat Last, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you just said that one of the reasons that people quit people is a leader who is not confident, and what came into my mind was what he talked about, the circle of safety, Joe.
Yes.
He said people need to know that you've got their back no matter what. And that's why even when you were just talking about people who come into our groups, you know what? I really feel like Shaklee wears very well on people. That no matter who we are and what kind of baggage we carry when we come into this circle of safety and this community, that it tends to bring out the best in us. You know, we're pretty tolerant of people and who maybe don't have a lot of skills yet. You know, we're all green and growing. We're all learning all the time. You never arrive at that. And I had never heard that concept before about a circle of safety, but that means everybody who comes into our organizations, wherever it is, that they know that if someone ever said something bad about them, you would defend them. You would have their back. If something ever happened where they were, having a downtime in their business, to know that you're the person that they can call. You're the one who has their back and will help noodle with them to figure out a solution to it. It's a very nice concept. I really like this. It goes back to what we were saying in our last couple of sessions about people skills. And one of the tests of this is to ask yourself, if I were my downlines, would I pick me to be their leader, to be their upline? It's a great way to kind of see how we're all doing. All right, next slide. Thank you. That's a good one.
And I think, too, on top of that, it just left. I didn't take my MindWorks this morning. Oh, okay, it's gone. All right, so let's go to this one. You only get answers to the questions you ask. Now, I know that in the past trainings, we've talked about the importance of asking questions as we're talking to our new prospects and as we're talking to the new customers and finding out what it is they want and what it is they need. And that's all really, really important. And just one quick story that popped into my mind is someone had told me, this person's got some issues with their digestive stuff. They want to get together and talk to you about their health things. And I was like, okay, fine. So I sat down. This was a long time ago, before I knew as much as I know now. And I was like, okay, let me just share with you what I need to tell you. And I just sat down and started telling them all about this stuff. And I finished my presentation. I says, well, do you have any questions? And she says, well, I didn't hear a word you said because I just lost my job today and I have to find a new source of income. Well, if I had asked that question in the beginning, even though I thought I knew why I was going in to give the presentation, things had changed since the appointment was set. So always ask questions at the beginning to be sure that you're sharing with them what's most important to them, which is really important. But I think what I'm talking about here, though, is sometimes our ego gets in the way and we have questions we don't know the answers to, but we're afraid to ask them. And I do believe in our Shaklee world, it's a cozy and warm enough place where you feel pretty comfortable asking questions, but sometimes that ego gets in the way. And here's a Chinese proverb, and I'm sorry I don't have it on the screen, but he who asks is a fool for 5 minutes, but he who does not ask is a fool forever. So if you've got burning questions that you need to know the answers to, ask your upline. Ask somebody at home office. I mean, there's so many resources we have and places that we can get the answers from that it's just powerful. Now, the thing is, you already learned a lot in past training about asking other people questions. But what about the questions you ask yourself? And here's a list, and I see I have an extra N in there, I apologize, to ask yourself. Am I investing in myself? And I can tell you right now, every one of you, because you are on this call and you are faithfully on this call or listening to the archives, you are investing in yourself. However, I'm going to caution you, investing only in the Shaklee stuff is good, but it's not good enough if you want to really achieve those leadership skills that are necessary to grow your business. So get on some of the podcasts or get some books. We've got some things in the to-do list that we'll share with you that can tell you those things. So that's number one. Number two, are you genuinely interested in others? And here in Shaklee, I'd say that most of us are, at least the ones that stick around and last and are here for a long time. But ask yourself that question, because that really kind of provides the motive for what's going on for you. So this is the one that we really need to focus on a lot. And be true to that, because if you're not genuinely interested in others, why not? And then ask yourself questions. Well, why am I not? And what can I do to become interested? And maybe it's just a matter of, let me think of the questions I need to have initially written down so that you can show an interest in people. Question number 3 here. Am I doing what I love and love what I'm doing? And I think in Shaklee, Joe and Barb, would you not say that's probably an irrevocable yes or a non-irrevocable yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I keep thinking about what Laura Googie said a couple of sessions back about Shaklee is a thing that I was looking for, and I didn't know it existed. So it's that I was looking for something, and I didn't know it was Shaklee, and that's why it's hard. What's not to like? You know, when you look at the benefits and you look at the friendships and the community in which we work, it's absolutely true. It's good.
It is.
These are nice questions. These are very nice questions.
And these are questions that, print it out and go over this every couple of months or at least once a year to be sure that you're asking yourself these questions and staying on track. And I think we love Shaklee. We love the potential that it has for those of you that are just growing, but know that you can never quit. All right? Because sometimes we get frustrated, even though we love what we're doing, but so many people might start to say no, and we get some negativity because, let's be honest, not everybody says yes all the time. But know that if you don't quit and you keep doing this, you can have a life that you will love till your last breaths. Now, am I investing my time with the right people? That can be kind of a tough question, but here's a couple of questions to ask within that, or things to note. And this is from another one of John's books called Winning with People. People can usually trace their successes and failures to the relationships in their lives. So it's his observation that when you're with the wrong people asking the wrong questions, you're wasting your time. When you're with the right people asking the wrong questions, you're still wasting your time. But if you're with the wrong people asking right questions, you're spending time. Right people asking the right questions, you're investing your time. So bottom line, you need to find the right people, ask the right questions, and you will be with the right people. So find the right people, ask the right questions, and you will, if you want to keep growing as a leader. I'm sorry, I'm struggling with that one for some reason. So, because let's face it, sometimes in Shaklee, we get the wrong people that are in, and that might be, sucking the life out of us. Okay. Some of you will find this happens, okay, as you develop your businesses. So just know that there is ways to, that you want to focus on finding the right people. Now this next one, are you staying in your strength zone? Now let's talk a little bit about what strength zone is. And what strength zone is where are your strengths? You might already know what they are. Maybe you are awesome at talking about products to people, but you're not so good about talking about the business. Or maybe you feel like you're really good at the bookkeeping part and the organizing part, but you're not good at talking to people. So the idea is know what your strengths are, but also know that you have to develop some of those other skills. Like if you're good at the bookkeeping part, but not so good at the people skills, then we need to help you to focus on learning those people skills. And taking, there's courses out there that we can take you to that can help you to learn those things. But also know that if you happen to partner with someone, it's really cool if you both have strengths that you can share. In my instance, I'm partners with my mom. My mom is really good at the customer service and listening to people and helping them, where me, on the other hand, I love to train people on the business, and my mom's not so hot on that idea. So she focuses on the product and the customer-based stuff, and I focus on the recruiting and the training. Mm-hmm. So so that can also work if you have a partner. But if you don't, then you've got to get a little creative in how you can have all those strengths. Now, are you taking others to a higher level? This goes back to your leadership skills. If you're working with people and they're not growing their businesses, then we need to help you to lost my notes on that one. Right. Give me 1 second here. Okay. The key to remember here is we are always about adding value to other people. And if you continue to add value to other people, if you wake up every day and that's the only thing you say is, I'm going to add value to other people today, that's a good way to spend your day. And by adding value, you can help people to get to those higher levels. And let's go on to, am I taking care of today? This is important because so many times some of us are like, well, I'm living in the future, focusing on qualifying for the next trip, focusing on this. But what about today? You do need to focus in today. Taking time to think is so key. Roger talked about this at the Leadership Summit that we went to out in Palm Springs. John Maxwell talks about it. You need to think and plan for your day, for your week, for your month, for your quarter, for your year. Okay, I kind of did it backwards, but honestly, on Sunday, I sit down and say, okay, this is my goal for the week, and these are the things I want to accomplish. In the beginning of every day or the night before, I go, what am I going to do today to accomplish what I've got set for this week? And that chunks it down from what my goals are for the month, for the quarter, and for the year. So, and
can I pipe in there too, Ruth? This is Becky. I love these questions. I love what you're sharing today. And I just want to just pop in a little bit on that thinking time, because I do feel like it is something that we can easily skip over. And it is so important just to be able to sit and plan, just like what you were saying. Where do you want to be? And then you backtrack. Okay, if that's where you want to be in a year, then you backtrack what those goals are. And as I was knowing, when I found out that you were going to be speaking about John Maxwell's books and principles today. I've read several of his books, and I pulled up some notes I took from Thinking for a Change, and the subtitle is 11 Ways Highly Successful People Approach Life and Work. And he is quoting Alvin Toffler, and I just love this quote, though. He says, you've got to think about the big things while you're doing the small things so that the small things go in the right direction. And it's exactly what you were teaching us today, Ruth, about, we've got this bigger picture, but that daily process, that was one of your underlying things on an earlier slide, that is the dailiness, that's we have to have that big picture in order to know where our daily activities need to go. But excellent information, Ruth. Keep going.
Okay. And on top of that, too, have you guys all heard about Miracle Mornings? Have you guys talked about that at all on these?
Okay. That's Katie's. That's a favorite of Katie's, but you can mention it here.
Yeah, because I think having a miracle morning is a great way, too, to get your day started off on the right step. And you can Google Miracle Morning. There's all sorts of information out there. But bottom line, what it is you take some time every morning to do some journaling, do some affirmations or afformations, spend some time in the Word if you're a Christian or whatever your faith is, and maybe spend some time exercising, and so that you take that extra time every morning to really start your day off with power. And it's very, very effective. And if you're a mom with a bunch of little kids, it might be a miracle hour in the middle of the night, wherever you can fit it in. But the key is to find some time, and it doesn't even have to be a whole hour. If you can carve out 20 minutes or 30 minutes where you even do some meditation and you focus on what your dreams and goals are, that can really be a huge addition to your day as well.
Joe, I'm remembering, back a couple of years that I think Pam Hoffman's on this morning, and we were interviewing one of her folks, and they were having a lot of growth. And I remember her saying, what you're talking about is getting yourself all centered inside, getting lined up with just kind of spiritually, mentally, physically, getting lined up. And I remember her saying, before she made something unusual name, she said, before she made a phone call, she took a moment to quiet herself and to center herself on the person she was calling and what she wanted to visualize happen in that call. And I thought, now that's smart. As opposed to flying around and trying to, stick it in quickly in a crazy schedule. It's like, take a minute, take a breath, and get centered. That's a very nice idea. I've got one eye on the clock, so I want to make sure we get through the rest of your material.
Okay, all right, and that's fine. And because these are just the Leadership Goal book I wanted you to see, that's the one where I got most of these nuggets from. But this book on the right is another one that if you feel you're struggling with connecting with people or getting people to follow you, this is a tremendous book because we're all communicating, but few people connect. So just wanted to share those two. Go ahead, next. And if you liked what you've heard a little bit here, go to johnmaxwellteam.com and you can sign up for a Maxwell Minute. And every day you will get John in your email box, and it's literally a 60-second blurb about some word. They're just fascinating, and it's just a nice little boost every day to see a little bit of John. And I love this quote. This has been my mom's mantra since she's been in Shaklee. So I think John wasn't the original quoter of this, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You hear it over and over again, and that is so true. But as we develop leaders, it's even more important because, let's face it, we are in the business of becoming a great leader, but developing leaders. And just real quickly, it's real easy to lead followers. It's fast and easy, but leading leaders is slow and hard. So know that even though it's slow and hard, it's all a journey. And we have such a tremendous team of people to walk with you and help you to learn even more skills that you guys are all in the right place at the right time. Let's go ahead to the next one. because John is actually going to be one of the featured speakers, actually the keynote at Willow Creek's Global Leadership Summit. I think they're going on their 15th or 16th year. This is Bill Hybels puts this on. And what's nice is it says 450 sites. Since I did this slide, I found out it's more like 679 sites.
Whoa.
Because they are literally all over the country. I mean, I know there's one in Wapaka, Wisconsin, because my leaders up there are planning on attending that. You can go to this website, Willow Creek Summit, willowcreek.com/summit. It's going to be a live simulcast broadcast. I attended one in Oak Brook because the Willow Creek place was already sold out when I learned about it last year. And it is powerful. It's all day, Thursday and Friday from like 9 to 5. And you can see the cost is $199 for one person to go if you register by June 28th. It goes up to $209 after that. Or you can get a group of 10 people, and then the tickets are only $169. Now, I realize this is the Thursday and Friday of the week after we're back from conference, but I felt it was so valuable when I went last year because you hear from different people. I mean, this is Melinda Gates, Bishop T.D. Jakes, as well as John. There's also going to be the president of Ford Motor Company, the president of Ritz-Carlton. And so you hear all sorts of, and it's some business, it's mostly business related, but it was just so powerful for me to attend. And since John's going to be there, I'm extremely thrilled and wanted to let you all know about this opportunity to see him and get a whole lot of value outside of the Shaklee world. Because I've been so focused on only doing my learning through Shaklee. It's only been in the last 2 or 3 years that I've started really attending conferences outside. And it's really fascinating. And you meet a lot of people that don't know about Shaklee. So it's a great place to recruit, too. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And that we can look at that. You mentioned the cost, Ruth, is so many dollars, but it's an investment, and that we have to invest in ourselves in order to develop those leadership qualities in ourselves.
I remember, Joe, Gary Burke used to ask us, how much will you invest in yourself in growing and learning this year? And I remember, now that was back 30, 40 years ago.
Sure.
And they were not making $400,000 a year like they are now. And I remember him telling us he sets aside and invests $1,000 a year in his growth, in his learning. He took courses like this. Or webinars. You hear Ashley, you hear Michelle, you hear Katie Harper. They're taking podcast courses, and so this is a wonderful modeling for all of us that if we want to be continual learners, this is how we do it. So we've got to think expansively, and I love that you said that, Ruth. Thank you, and for telling us about these special events.
Yeah. And that's part of the action steps that we're encouraging people for this week, is to continue to make a study of leadership, or maybe begin to make a study of leadership if you haven't ever thought in that arena before. And there are great books on leadership that you can read. We talked about, podcasts, there are TED Talks, the John Maxwell, the Minute. What are they called? Daily Minute. Yeah, I've listened to those for months now, and all of that stuff, it helps to feed our mind, helps us getting a little bit thinking a little differently, realizing that we have more inside of us than we ever thought. So those are all real important things.
And can I just something real quickly here? I used to get up and turn the TV on to see what the morning news was, and I don't know if anybody else has that habit. So now, instead of getting up and turning on the morning news, I put in one of these podcasts, or listen to Maxwell's Minute, or replace the stuff that puts the negative junk into our heads with this positive stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then work to okay, becoming a leader, you can start really small. You can start at the beginning by creating a growth environment for leaders to develop within and to build relationships. And you know, it can be done easily with, you know, Facebook events or acknowledging people on Facebook. We can do it in newsletters. You can set up social events, doing weekend retreats, pool parties, backyard barbecues, lunch, lunch on the deck or whatever. But bringing people together, and maybe people haven't identified themselves or raised their hand as really a leader in Shaklee, but you can take the leadership role in bringing people together, helping them feel some connectedness to you, to the team, to Shaklee, having them interact with others who are even just using Shaklee products. But that's starting to create a kind of a growth environment where you're helping others to start thinking differently. And that's what leaders do. We believe in people. We help people think differently. We help them move forward.
Nice.
Anybody?
Nice, Joe. Well, we have this has been sitting here for a little bit, this wonderful quote that I keep forwarding because I love it so much. But you are an unfinished work in progress. One of the good things about life's challenges, you get to find out that you're capable of being far more than you ever thought possible. Amen.
Yes.
And then the last session that we want to tell you about, our last slide, is about what's going to happen this summer. We're going to do one more session in this series, which has been a wonderful series of Journey to Executive Coordinator, where we've been exploring people skills, leadership skills, strategies for growth. And we're going to be continuing this summer with something unique. We're going to do 5 sessions about strategies for building. It will be spearheaded by Ashley McDonald, Katie Odom, and Michelle Parrott, whom you heard today on the pre-call. And by the way, Michelle, we have got 999 questions coming in, wanting to know more about those wonderful ideas that you shared in the pre-call today, including setting up the Health and Wellness album. And we have a request for you to explain that in a little more detail so people understand that. So we will be bringing her back. We'll just make her a regularly scheduled visitor in our pre-call. So we'll get all those questions for you. But because in-homes have really evolved, Joe requested, it was her brainchild here, that we do a virtual in-home right here so that you can hear what people say from the beginning to the end. You can hear the opening and the welcome, and you can hear the closing. You can hear what happens in between and thinking behind it. And then we're going to do a lot of work. A lot of these sessions are going to come from the podcasts that I think costs over $400 that Ashley and Katie and Harper have all been taking and bringing what they're learning to all of us so we can learn as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. Those summer sessions will begin on June 30th. And then Joe, want to take us to some of the questions? There was a problem with the website today,
yes.
right?
Yeah. Sorry, I was scrambling to get my stuff working too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I think it was the platform, as they say. So we don't know what that was about. Some of these things come as a surprise to us too.
Question on, does Michelle use the free version of Bitly or the paid version?
Oh, we have to unmute her if we're going to ask her that question. Oh, Michelle.
Oh, my God. There she is.
Hello.
I got her.
Hi.
Hello.
I use the free one.
Okay. And someone is asking if they can get a quick lesson on how to create a health and wellness album and post to it.
I could do that in our pre-call next week.
Sure.
That would be great because I don't know how to do that either.
And Michelle, you should move in permanently here. And
Exactly.
a lot of questions for you. Never mind that she's got 47 kids and mornings are crazy. But anyway, that would be great. Is it? Because it might be more than we can handle right here, but that would be good. We will put that in pre-call for next week. Here, there, little people behind her.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you hear them?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's very good. We love little people.
Another question.
Go ahead,
Do others see the Facebook personal page?
I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
Hmm.
And then if you do that in the pre-call, because there are questions about that, putting it in your album, how do you write about it once it's in your album?
You would.
I love that. For people who weren't on the pre-call, we should at least tell them what we're talking about. Is Michelle shared this fabulous idea of how she has made these wonderful little information pieces that she posts about different Shaklee products, but she posts them in a special album. Am I anywhere close to describing this accurately, Michelle? On her personal Facebook page. And because it's in this album that she entitled Health and Wellness Album, people see it, but they see it as something that she is filing in there. And it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. So she's going to tell us how she does that, how she created that. That's a cool idea.
It's very simple. Anybody can do it.
Thank you for the confidence in all of us.
Exactly. Everyone can do it, I swear.
Well said.
I'll just see about that, right? Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Go ahead, Joe. Anything else?
Oh, just the John Maxwell book that Ruth mentioned, and the two that she is recommending are posted right here.
Right there.
And most of the questions are...
Kudos here, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth.
Kudos.
Oh, and here's another suggestion from somebody that we have a webinar on the right questions. What are the typical questions?
To ask ourselves.
Well, but there's also, we've got several webinars archived on that talk about how to have meaningful conversations with people.
Yeah. You know, it's quite interesting about questions is I find myself, we have a session that we did in 8 Weeks to Director. I think it was the third session, and it was about nutrition consulting, really, but it was filled with questions that we asked people that just help us get a picture of what's going on in their lives and in their health. But it does it in such a lovely way. But it's those questions you might find very helpful about, on a scale of 1 to 10, where's your energy? On a scale of 1 to 10, where's your stress level? Though people like to answer those two questions because, those questions are as much for them really as for us. And it reminds them that, my energy really is kind of crummy. And, my stress level really is over the top. And it raises awareness of, I really should be doing something about this. And so there's some lovely questions in there. And then in the ones that we started working on in Journey to Exec, if you go back, you'll see there's some sessions there where we talk about coaching. There's some wonderful questions in there about coaching. And a lot of that is also about who we are being when we are coaching, which is really what Ruth is talking about here. It's about, when I read that thing about people quit people, they don't quit companies and they don't quit products, is that, it always comes back to us. And, in a relationship, we are always at least one element of that relationship. And so it's always an opportunity for us to take a look at ourselves and see how next time we can do better, whatever that would mean.
And it's putting the emphasis on the other person. I was just thinking about the example that Ruth gave when she sat down with that person and said, well, I've got all this information here. Let's get into this and blah, blah, blah. To have just simply have said, I'm prepared this morning to talk a little bit about, digestion and how I might possibly be able to help you or work with you around that. How how does that sound to you that we do that today? Or how's that feeling to you? Or is that, just where
That's
are
right.
they? Just getting an assessment of where they are. And
that's very good. And a nice thing to do is before you begin speaking with someone is to say, I'll often say, I have because it's usually on the phone, I'll say, I have some paper here and I'm going to take some notes. So just tell me a little bit about sort of where you are in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
So if it's a business call, then I'll start there. Tell me where you are in your life and what are you thinking in terms of Shaklee? Or if it's about health, say, tell me a little bit about your health and where you are with that. I mean, that's about as open of a question as you can ask. And then I start taking notes, and they will tell you what's really on their mind that way. Yep. So it's the art of asking questions, I think, is to ask them gently and give people permission to tell you and create a safe place for them to tell you.
And I think the other thing, too, is when you ask the question, don't start talking until they answer it. And sometimes there's an uncomfortable silence there while they're thinking about it. But it's natural for us to say, okay, we wait like 5 seconds to go, okay, well, then we ask another question. So ask the question and stop and listen.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times, after they tell you something, it's very helpful to comment on it I tend to do it in a fun way. Like the woman I talked to this week, and she really was in a bad place, and so she said all these things she did, and how that didn't work and that didn't work, and so at some point you're either going to go, oh God, how terrible, and I said, well, maybe you should get points for having all the symptoms that they said that could happen to you. She said, I get every side effect that ever. It's like, well, maybe we should give a prize for that. I mean, and help make it light for people to know that you're being sympathetic. There was a real interesting, I guess it was on Facebook. Some of you may have seen it. It was about the difference between empathy and sympathy. They haven't thought much about,
is that you, Barb, or?
No, it's not. Well,
I just muted Ruth. I'm not sure.
Okay.
That came from Ruth before. Yeah, there's some static over there. Anyway, it was about the difference between empathy and sympathy. And that speaks to your question about questions, is that empathy is about saying, when you hear something that's heavy, it's about saying, thank you for sharing that with me. It's about standing with somebody and sharing it. It's not about giving them answers to it. And sympathy is about, oh, that's too bad. Well, at least it wasn't that, or boy, that, in my situation, you start talking about your situation, it's like, no, empathy is about standing with them and saying, how can I help? Thank you for sharing that. You must be incredibly strong to have handled that. That's what empathy is. So these are wonderful questions that you all inquire about here, because it gives us great ideas for things to share here. Anything else, Joe?
I think I think a lot of thank you, Ruth, because people found this very meaningful and helpful. I think we hear most of them.
Great. So next week we're going to do something new, and we're going to talk about the self-defeating behaviors, and it's those things that we may be doing and we're unaware of. And it's just helpful to know when we see these things within ourselves, and then we can recognize them within the people that we coach, because they get in the way of authentic relationships. So things like being a perfectionist, things like being a people pleaser, things like being a rescuer and a martyr, and really understand what those are, where they came from, how we develop that within ourselves, but how it can mess with our genuine relationship with people. So we'll wrap up with that one and take a break, and then we'll be back for the summer session. So thanks, everybody. Great. Thank you, Ruth. Yeah, thanks all. Bye-bye.
This is called, okay, good. I have a cat on my chair and my sweatshirt's gotten too hot. I want to take my headset off and take my sweatshirt off, but I'll talk.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's about right.
Okay, so it's special cash for Orlando Global Conference Incentive. So we have until June 30th to accumulate 20 sponsoring points this month. So if you're close, you may have received an email from Shaklee telling you that you're close to receiving a share. If you do generate 20 sponsoring points this month of June, then you receive 1 share of the $30,000 pot of money that Shaklee has allocated for Orlando. So it's at least worth $100 a share. So, and 35 points and this month gets you 2 shares. So great.
That was really very nice of them. So it makes the money available. Great.
Absolutely.
Okay, Beck. Mm-hmm.
The Monday Wellness webinars we're going to hold for the summer a little bit. We're going to resume them Monday, August 15th, which will be after our convention. So we'll be able to highlight any new products or any new news from that. But how to find out about this, the new setup and the new links for the wellness webinars will be from that Learning from the Masters Facebook page. And you can go there on Facebook and ask to be added. It is a I don't know if it's called private or closed, but anyway, you have to be added to the group. And then you'll just watch around that time period for those information. It'll have a new link, and you'll register just like you did with this one, but it'll be a different one.
And one of the things that's going to be coming up in those is I have reconnected recently with a woman named Ellie Cullen. Some of you may recognize that name. She is the developer of a very special kind of preventive blood testing. And I haven't spoken with her for a number of years. And during this time, they have been developing some additional, more sophisticated testing for different elements of the blood that tests the health of our organs, that it tells you about what's going on metabolically in your body. And in speaking with her, I was on the phone with her for 2 hours, and just she called us really to update me on what they had been learning. And I said, we have got to do a series now on the Monday night wellness webinars. And one of the things that she told me was that statin drugs now have been shown to damage the HDL, the so-called good cholesterol. Okay.
So I just unmuted Ruth, but maybe we need to wait a minute. I'm sorry,
Ruth. Right. We're not quite there yet. She has a headset. So anyway, she was saying that when you take a statin drug, her blood test showed that it removes much of the protective nature of HDL. Which is, they've always been very controversial, but things like that I thought would be very helpful. So look forward to that coming up when the wellness webinars resume. Okay, and Pam, you want to read this? This is one. Or Joe, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. This was one of your favorites. I found it when I was cruising through some of the previous sessions we did on leadership. Mm-hmm.
Ben Zander is one of I really like him. But he wrote that, what's it called? The Art of Possibility, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
We heard him speak at a Shaklee convention, probably 12 years ago now. Anyway, he said, this is the moment. This is the most important moment right now, which is we are about contribution. That's what our job is. It's not about impressing people. It's not about getting the next job. It's about contributing something. And that's such a very worthwhile mission and vision to have for what we really do in Shaklee.
He's a conductor of, or was the conductor Boston Philharmonic or something, but wonderful man, great sense of humor, but he was just a very giving person. We just loved him. And then we have more going on in June, Becky. Oh, yes. Wonderful. Okay, I'll take care of the dogs, and you talk about June.
This is the last month for us to qualify for Star Achiever for the Orlando Global Conference. And it really is a wonderful acknowledgement to be a Star Achiever. And how you find out how close you are is go click on your business tab, and there's a little underneath that, it says incentives and trackers, and click on trackers, and you'll be able to see exactly where you're at, how close you are to getting a star or multiple stars. And so you want to be able to participate in that if you can, because you get special seating, you get special registration, you get gifts. Stephanie Bruce took this picture of her gifts last year. We actually got these really cool green purses, which is really neat, and a Tiffany bowl, and then I think that's a little Shaklee necklace. So it's really a wonderful way that Shaklee can acknowledge you each year. And now we've got Michelle. Michelle, take away.
Michelle Parent. So we asked her to share this idea she's been working on this month. Michelle, are you there? Hi. Tell us about the 30 days of Shaklee.
So I did it a couple months ago, and I got a couple new customers. And so I thought, because June is typically really slow, people are really busy, traveling, school's ending, moms are trying to get into a routine of having kids home, that I would just do it again. And it's really pretty basic. I just take the same format for my pictures, and I take a picture of a product that I use. So either I use it that day or it's one of my favorite products, and I post it up on Facebook. I write a little bit about how I use it or why I like it. And then I usually just go to the Shaklee website and copy and paste either their description or, like, you know, the little tab, it'll say the Shaklee difference or features. I'll go and I'll just copy and paste that into my Facebook post. And then I add my little bit.ly link and I pop it up. And I do not get a lot of, a lot of comments. I get a few likes here and there, but I'm able to go and see how many times, like, my link was clicked because of this bit.ly that you see. And this, I'll just tell you about this real quick. This is a website. So our My Shaklee, so you have your name.myshaklee.com. And when you are linking to a product so people can read more, it's like 5 miles long. And so this just makes it look a little bit nicer. But not only does it make it look nicer, you can also track to see how many times people click it. So, like, if you see here on the screen, there's like that graph down below. And so that is how many clicks I get a day on my little bit.ly link.
Very clever.
And yeah, and so I'm able to see, like, they keep a track. So you can just make a link one time and you can just reuse it over and over again. And you can look back, like, previous months to see when people clicked on things like stress relief is clicked on quite a lot on here. And so I'm able to just see, like, people just weren't really interested in X product, but they really like this one. So then I kind of have a better idea of what my customers or even potential customers are looking for. And it's really easy to do. You just set up an account at that bit.ly, and you can start making your links, and you can customize your links. So I customize the mineral mask to infusing mineral mask. And sometimes if someone's already used that specific name, it'll tell you to create a new name. So you just kind of have to get creative sometimes. But it just, that looks so much nicer than that really long one.
That's great, Michelle.
But back to the 30 days. So that's an example of the mineral mask. And so
it's so pretty.
That's my
now, did you take
background.
You took that picture?
Okay, yeah. So I just took it with my iPhone, and then on Photoshop, I just have a template with like the circles, background, and the text. And so I just edit it. And so it's just a template. So I can just upload a picture on there and then edit my text. So I post it into my health and wellness photo album that I have on Facebook. And the reason I have a health and wellness photo album is so that all of my Shaklee posts are in one place for people to find easily. I find that people don't feel spammed if they see that you're adding it to an album. and it doesn't get lost in your timeline. So if anyone's ever interested in learning more, they can just go straight to my health and wellness album and find all Shaklee related posts. So
I love that. That is a great idea. I got to write this down. Okay, so you created a health and wellness album in your
photo album,
in your Facebook page.
Yeah, my photo album.
This is your personal page, right, Michelle? It's your personal page you're talking about?
Yes,
okay.
My personal page. Because I don't want to continually overwhelm. It's just a mind. I keep telling everybody on our team, I'm like, it's just a mindset thing. So when people are seeing that you're uploading a Shaklee photo to your health and wellness album, they just think you're categorizing these photos. But if you're constantly posting on your timeline, people can kind of get annoyed and feel like you're filling their news feed with all of your stuff. But when they see that you're adding it to this album, it's like they don't really care as much because they see that you're putting it into a category. Does that, you know what I'm saying?
You're a genius.
So they can decide.
That's very clever.
That's great.
So I have this health and wellness album, and on that page that I have with my photo, I just post a little bit about whatever product it is. And then I have a blog, so then I link to the whole skincare line. And then I posted a comment with a picture of me actually using the mask. So, and that just so people can scroll through. So that's just an example
Michelle.
of what I wrote, why I like it, and then I just kind of gave a little description, and then I had that bit.ly link.
That's perfect.
That's great. Excellent. Thank you, Michelle.
Super easy, and anybody can do it. And like Monkey, any of those other things that people have talked about, if you don't have Photoshop or if you're not like savvy with that kind of stuff, pick Monkey. And really, it doesn't matter. You can use just an app on your phone and add some text. Just as long as you're posting every day so that people have that daily, visual of the product.
Awesome.
That's very, very cool. I might want to mention that this summer, we've got one more session to our Journey to Executive Coordinator. That will be next week. And then we'll take a break for a week. And then when we return, we're doing a 5-week summer strategies for building course. And Michelle and Katie and Ashley McDonald are going to be coordinating that. I'll show you the topics when we get to the end of today's session. So, Michelle, you're going to get a lot more of Michelle and her genius when over the summer, because these women have learned how to use Facebook in such an effective way, and it's really shown. Michelle is a senior coordinator heading toward exec, and it's the major part of her success. Thank you, my dear.
You're welcome.
All right, should we do the countdown? Are we ready?
Countdown. Oh, did you unmute Ruth yet? Let's test it.
Not again. Let's do that. Are you going to get her, Barb, or do you want me to get her?
I'm getting her, but I was nervous because last time we got her.
A landslide of information coming in the microphone.
Right. All right, let's see. Here we go. Did you get her? Oh, no.
Becky, are you going to have me do anything?
No, you just watch now.
Good morning.
How do I mute?
Oh, okay, there we are. Ruth is there. Okay,
I am here.
Okay.
Hey.
Hey, good morning, Ruth. We always like when we hear the voice of our guest speaker.
It is helpful.
Okay, now 3, 2, 1, and we go. Okay.
3, 2, 1.